Welcome back to part 5 of 10 for the new Technician Trials. This stage is one of the more interesting ones as it features enemies that do not actually fight back. While you may think this makes it a lot easier, you're wrong. This stage requires a high elemental coverage, which certain 4 stars unfortunately do not make the cut. Tried using Moko for part 1, however she does too little damage to effectively bring down the enemies. Using Sword in part 2 to fish for all our attacks didn't work out very well as well. Similarly, other sweepers such as Panther does not work very well, as even with Futaba, weakness cannot be implanted as the enemies are resistant to every other element they are not weak against. As such, the team composition is very strict, requiring you to have characters like Riddle or Skull who are excellent at single target damage. However, if you have premier characters like Joker or Makoto, they'll put less pressure on the other half of the stage, allowing you more freedom with your team composition. With that in mind, let's take a look at part 1's team. Riddle will be providing side coverage as well as buffs for the team, allowing them to dish out more damage. For nuke coverage, we have Vino. However, if you have Makoto, she's a much better choice. As for electric, Closer will be our choice here, but if you have Yui or if you're running Makoto, you can choose to replace her with Chord instead. Lastly, Wonder will be in charge of the gun element by using Yanosek. We'll be using Tor as well on Wonder during the turn when Futaba uses skill tree in conjunction with Closer's highlight, to hopefully allow us to deal enough damage to put us closer to part 2. The point requirement is not very strict as I was able to clear with 1 million extra points. You do need to keep a close eye on the turn limit though, as that will be the biggest issue. Moving on to part 2, Sepia will be required for curse coverage. If you have Joker, he's an excellent choice. If you're running Joker on the second team, it's much better to move Futaba over as well. This allows for Joker to take full advantage of Futaba's skill tree with the extra turn. Blurad will be our win coverage and it's non-negotiable unless you're willing to wait for Mon's 5-star to be released. Wonder will also serve as a sub-damage dealer with Vishnu while also applying valuable debuffs as well. Skull is required for physical coverage, and if you have Messer, then use him instead. Lastly, Wind is used for insight and passive as we need every bit of damage to clear the second part. Consider using Alice insta-kill if you're running low on turns, as the point threshold for 3-star is very generous. Chances are you have more than enough points required before even having to kill all 4 of the treasure demons in the second part. With the introductions out of the way, let's get into it. The general strategy for this part revolves around reducing down points and going for 1 more chains. We need all the damage we can get as the enemy has a really high HP pool. Once debuffs on the enemy and buffs from our characters start getting applied, then start doing a lot more damage. Haruna is especially helpful here, as both her highlight and her skill tree provides a huge chunk of damage boost. Vino's defense down is also extremely helpful as well. Similarly, Yanosek's mark can further boost our damage. Second and third turns are our huge damage turns, with Haruna and Futaba's buffs. Here we pop Riddle's highlight for even more attack buffs. On turn 3, use Futaba's skill tree on Closer, further buff her electric damage. We'll also be switching to Tour on Wonder to hopefully finish off the rest of the shadows. With that, enjoy the rest of part 1 and I'll see you in part 2. The strategy for part 2 is very similar to part 1. Make use of the 1 more chains as well as all our attacks. With Wind, it makes this process a lot simpler. When using much weaker units such as 4 stars, we often need to plan our moves to maximize our damage potential. Look to set up Wind's insight such that you can at least chain 2 1-mores for huge damage. By doing so, it allows us to overcome our shortcomings of not having high damage dealing limited 5 stars. With that, the rest of the run is pretty simple, of just repeating 1 more and all our attacks until you eventually take out all the shadows. If you somehow land yourself in a situation where they are still alive and at low HP, finish them off with Alice instant kill. You should still be able to earn your 3 stars. Good luck with your clears, and thank you for watching.